Hey guys, have a message on my heart. I wanted to hang out with you for 30 minutes. I'll save this to the grid, so if you're catching it as a recording, hello. Just want to see who we have on live. I want to explore the topic of efforts in place to control the narrative and using your voice for the first time, and some tips. Hi guys, come on in. Got about 100 on live. I'll wait a few more minutes or a few more seconds perhaps. Nice to have you join live. Always fun doing impromptu lives. Hey. Hello from Niagara-on-the-Lake. That's where I was born. Stick around for 30 minutes with me if you're interested in the topic of using our voice, standing, and perhaps what's at play right now, controlling the narrative. Share this out if you think you might have a friend interested in this topic, but I will save this to the grid. Hello, Georgia. Hello, Austria. Nice. All right, let's dive in. So there are a lot of people right now beginning to stand. And I hope that we have a nice group on today that this message is really for. Legs are a little wobbly, voice is shaking, but you're starting to use it. It's beautiful. I'll use Canada as an example right now. It's giving the world a feeling of hope right now. They are a unified example of a collective roar. And of course, there are efforts in place to mar this, to tear this down. And I want to talk a little bit about that. But see, for a long time, Canadians have been known for being agreeable. Insert other words, peaceful, kind, but really agreeable. And this comes from many reasons. There's a heritage there of that. It's also somewhat constructed to create citizens that are agreeable, okay? But this orchestra of voices that we see coming out of countries like Canada is an illustration of the shifting of power. People are leaving their station. So we have trained good girls who are stepping fully into the role of the warrior mother. We have conditioned to be weak males who are stepping into their protector role. This is much of the energy you see even within the convoy. This is something that cannot be put back in the bag. Just can't, right? So we're in this time right now where there are many people who are feeling emboldened by this to be expressing themselves and their voice, maybe for the first time in their life. And the reason that a lot of people are feeling this pull or this urge to speak up is that there's a desire right now that many of us are experiencing to focus on building what we want to actually see. Perhaps you're a parent, you're really thinking about what you're leaving, what type of world you're giving to your children. This is on the heart of so many parents right now. And there's a desire to come into complete integrity. It no longer feels peaceful or good to simply be approved of by the group, right? So there's this fire, this burning internally, right? To just gather the courage to stand and to speak. So what I want to talk about first is there are various efforts in place right now to prevent or stop that from happening. And then I want to talk about some tips, some things that I've just been thinking about that I found helpful in the beginning when I was first, I guess, putting it out there, right? Okay, so you have to understand what's at play right now. There are these efforts or structures in place and I've been giving this a lot of thought lately as I've been noticing, witnessing, experiencing what's happening in real time. There are these structures in place to silence the emerging voices of those that are standing and speaking truth to power. Yes, this will be saved, Ellie. This is in place to control the narrative. Okay? So imagine there's a leader of a country. Let's say there was a leader of a country. And while the country was falling, he would continue to tell people that they were doing the right thing. He does this to continue massaging the conditioning that has worked up to this point. He knows that if he can cuddle, if you will, his people around this messaging of doing the right thing as he determines, then he and his government remain their God. Let's just imagine there was a country like that. Okay. So who do we know in the past week has said over and over and over and over and over again, you've done the right thing. In fact, you're Canadian because you did the right thing. Okay. So that is the first effort that is in place. Effort from the government. There's three I'm going to talk about. Effort from the government to play the next division card that they have in their hand. It's simple. It's obvious. It's puppetry. Not much needs to be said here to those of you that see this, that understand this. It's a playbook of divide and conquer that they work from. Something I've been noticing with even with this trucker convoy is how much energy and effort has been spent to portray it in a way that they know would divide people. They're focusing on, for example, a few individuals out of the millions. They're focusing on a few individuals and trying to paint a picture of the whole thing. And this is analogous to me of the entire experience of the last 2 years, where you have something spreading that has such a high, like a 99% success rate for people who come across said thing. And yet, because of the 0.5% or the 1%, they're willing to destroy the whole thing. So that's been very much the conversation happening around this convoy, right? It's like, let's just throw the whole thing out because there might be a few bad seeds in there, right? Ignore the millions. So that's a common, that's like effort number one. Many of you see that. Effort number two is an interesting one. It's what the agenda labels as useful idiots. This is how they're labeled to the elites, from the elites to utilize certain groups of people for their work. Now, people that are recruited in for this work don't know they're being recruited in for this work, but they're easy to prey upon. And there's things that you'll notice are common. So someone that's doing the work without realizing they're doing the work maybe doesn't have all of these things I'm going to spell out right now, but they'll have one of them. Number one, they're very concerned with being seen as a good person rather than simply just being a good person. I'll add being a good person off the gram. They're very concerned that you people know that they're a good person, okay? So of course, the narrative from said leader that you did the right thing feels very warm and fuzzy, okay? They also have a track record of abusing themselves, whether it be through food, through alcohol, through drugs, through pharmakia. They've tasted such a level of self-hatred in their life that they're drawn to anything that promotes that. They're drawn to anything that keeps them disempowered. they're obviously also easily recruitable into the tearing down of another person because they've torn themselves down for so long. You'll see evidence of this in their life, whether it be physically obvious or just stories that they've shared. The good boy, good girl archetype plays in here as well, which I've already mentioned, but you will notice that in the past they post things that their government or their media tells them to post. They've been conditioned to speak only when they know it will gain approval. They tear down emerging voices. They attach themselves to whatever division card their government is playing, and then they retreat. So you see this pattern out of this group that's being used. They fall for everything. They stand for nothing unless it's what the group is standing for. And then you won't hear from them. They'll retreat. I'm not going to go into specifics on that, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about there. There's just this cycle and this call for censorship and tearing down individuals out of this group. It's a cancer in the collective, and anyone who is calling for the cancellation of another person is not a builder. They're not a contributor. They're not a co-creator. They're a destructor. This is the role that they're playing, which is why you won't either see them producing or contributing anything, or what you will also see is they try, but it has no expansion. There's no fruit there because their energy is so focused on the teardown. So that's effort number 2, to silence emerging voices. Effort number 3, you're seeing play out this week through the requested cancellation of Joe Rogan, for example. So effort number 3 are the mature voices that are called in to silence the voices that are emerging. So these are your guru types. You guys, if you've been here with me for a while, you've heard me talk about this. The self-help industry is rampant with them. They hide behind a facade of self-help to keep their reader chained to them. I want you to think about your favorite book author in the self-help industry. Did you feel expansive at some point from them, and then eventually it led you back to needing them? Was there an unhealthy hook there? These guru types are quite deep in the New Age school of becoming a god themselves. This is what they believe, that they have no choice but to call for the silencing of others to continue establishing themselves within their peer group. So they aren't a huge group, but they are a group that see themselves on the path of becoming a god, and they call for the cancellation of others. So they would be seen as the more mature voices because they've gained your trust over the years. And actually 2 years ago, so right when all of this was beginning, I felt a stirring, like I felt this prompting to get rid of every book in my home on my bookshelf written by these authors. I knew who they were going to be. I don't know how to explain it. Some of you may remember me posting about this. I gave them all away. I could feel something in my spirit was happening. And I knew that these guru types were going to be utilized in some way. So those are the 3 things I wanted to share that you need to be aware are going on right now. I've been thinking a lot about this. And I had time today to hop on. So now what I want to talk about is, now that you're aware of this, how do you navigate this? Yeah, thanks for your comments, guys. I'll hang out for a few minutes at the end. So I just want to stay focused. Now that you're aware of this, how do you navigate this? Some of you listening are seasoned in the arena of speaking up, even when others are not. So I'm with you there. I actually feel the opposite impact of speaking up. If I don't, such as this, what I'm sharing with you today, I feel like a part of me, I can't breathe. A part of me feels like it's dying if I don't release what is being impressed on my heart. So I don't fear others, and I care very little about the approval of other people. This has been a lifetime of work in that arena for sure. I respond to criticism and to efforts to remove my voice by double downing in my, is that a word, phrase? I double down in my giving. I double down in my contributing. I double down in my creating. I double down in my service to others. I've never been busier in all my life than right now because I know what this time calls for. And I keep using my voice, but my life and my contribution is how I get louder. So it has the opposite effect. It energizes me. So that some of you here, you can relate to that for sure, right? You're not new to this arena. But if you are, the next few things that are for you. So, and I do want to just thank those of you that have been holding that line, holding that space for so long. Thank you. Keep going. Your voice is absolutely needed, especially as these emerging voices begin to arise. So, for those of you that are coming into this arena, I wrote down a few notes. Let me just pull up my notes here that I wanted to share with you. Things that I have found very helpful. And again, I'm sharing here so that you feel, hopefully, expansive with this information, that you do not feel restricted, but that you feel like, yes, okay, that feels like it's for me. I feel like I can continue working with this feeling I have internally to stand strong and to share what that means to you. Okay. So number one, I feel this to be the most important thing is to pray. And I want to share with you an example of things that I have prayed in the past. Something I've learned over the years as my spiritual walk has grown with God is to treat prayer as not just simply a request, but a declaration of what God's going to do in your life. So things like, you might say things like, God, thank you that you are going to bring me into a new relationship with the calling on my life. Thank you that you're going to bring people and experiences into my life that are going to help shape my calling. Thank you for all that has brought me here and all that is going to take me there. Thank you for the opportunities you are going to provide me to stand strong. Thanking for and declaring what you want to have more of, understanding that it's happening for you. Okay? You're even here right now for a reason. I absolutely believe that. I'm so curious to come back and read your commentary, and I'll say some of it at the end. Number 2, keep a running notepad with you to journal your thoughts, your reflections, your responses, your reactions to things that are happening in our world. So your voice starts to shape on paper first. I think this is really important. I have a running notepad. I actually just use the notepad app on my phone because often I'll start to have a new download or thought pattern coming to me when I'm out for a walk or something or a run, and I'll stop and I'll journal on it. I have hundreds of notes over the years that I've actually never even shared here yet, but all of this starts to shape our voice. So that's the second point I would give you is don't let those thoughts just circulate here. Put them on paper so you can start to really see what's forming. The third tip expands on that. Define on paper what your line is. This is really important because if you don't know your line, you won't know when it's been crossed. And I guess even deeper than that, what are your values? What do you value most in your life? This is a really important time to get super clear on that. What are you willing to put it all on the line for? Be very specific. What are your values? And that ultimately leads to you knowing, what is your line so that when it is crossed, you know when it's been crossed and you stand up and you speak. And perhaps you do that even before it's been crossed, right? And then the next thing I want to share is you'll know when the timing is right. You'll know when that prompting, when it's just been building inside of you so much that there's a moment where it's time to speak. And in this time, when you're preparing to perhaps talk about something that you never have before, or perhaps you're going into a meeting with an employer or the principal or something you're very nervous for, but somewhere where you have to stand your ground when you need to voice what is important to you. the next few things are just around when that timing hits. So the first thing is, it can be helpful to role play with somebody how you want that conversation to go. But I will also share, you don't actually need to role play with a person. You can do this even just with yourself. You can do this on paper. For example, whenever I share something that I know is going to provoke someone or people spiritually, I prepare myself for the reactions that I know are going to come, so that when I respond to that, I am rooted in love, and I'm not feeding into this restrictive energy that this person has, but I'm actually hopefully helping to contribute to their expansion. Music can be really helpful as well. So using music as a conduit, having a playlist of something that just really impacts your heart and helps you remember who you are, whose you are, that can be very helpful, to have something that you just play before you go to do the thing. Oils, essential oils are really powerful too. I have one on my desk I want to just talk about super quick. I'll just talk about one, Arbor Vitae. I'm not mentioning this one simply just because it's the evergreen that's native to Eastern Canada, but if you have this oil, you know it by its very grounding, strong, protective aroma. It's just gorgeous. It kind of smells like a cedar sauna. But this Arbor Vitae is known as the tree of life. How beautiful is that? Some Arbor Vitae trees live to be over 800 years old with no signs of bugs. So it's grounding in its aroma, it's protective, but it's quite literally the embodiment of resiliency. So using an oil like Arbor Vitae or even spearmint known as the oil of confidence. I mean, oils have a lot of emotional roots. I don't dive in fully into that because I think that can be manipulated in an unhealthy way. But essential oils can be great conduits as well. And then depending on the nature of the conversation you're about to have, prepare to record it. I shared this last year when a lot of people were losing or being threatened to lose their jobs, to not quit, but to hold your ground and go into a conversation with your employer and record that conversation. And when I was talking about this, it was specific around the topic of liability, asking if they were prepared to take liability for what they were about to enforce. But recording a conversation that you're going into, that an important conversation, whether it be with your employer or your principal, would be really wise. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I think for those of you that are just popping in, I will save this as a recording, but it's important for us to understand that both the light, both the good, and both the dark and the evil are intensifying right now. It's why we are feeling so away from our center. There's so much going on. As they are intensifying, this is what I meant a few years ago when I talked about there being two worlds that were going to emerge. And the decisions we're making right now, what we are standing for, what we are speaking to, is casting a vote into the world we plan to be in. What many people fail to realize is by not using their voice, they are casting a vote to be in the world they are currently being disempowered through. And so I've also experienced in my life that when you do stand strong and hold your ground and speak your values and speak truth to power, there are avenues and doors that will open up that continue to show you that you are pathing into the world that you want to live in, the world that you want to hand your children. And there absolutely are two emerging. So what are your thoughts on this topic? Let me scroll up. I wanted to make sure I had a few minutes at the end just to hang out with you guys. Got about 150 on live. That's awesome. Yes, it is. It is like a tug of war right now. Absolutely. Parallel worlds. A lot of you are commenting on various mature voices that you've seen come out in the last week to seek to remove other voices. they're illustrating their heart. They're showing you the corners of their heart that have been there likely the whole time. It just was able to be candy coated under this light and love, self-help, blah, 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 blah industry. So this is the richness of this time, right, you guys? It's so clarifying right now. Hold on, I had a little fan going down here and I think there we go. That probably is better sound. I love when you guys share resources and helpful too with each other. I'll read out any that I come across here. A lot of you are commenting on the notebooks that you keep, just the journaling and discovering your voice on paper first. I lost my job due to the vax mandate. Hopefully there will be more employers like you. Yeah. Any of you that have found yourself in that position, I absolutely believe there are going to be incredible opportunities that open up for you. So, it's best to not fear what the next step is going to look like. You will be taken care of. In fact, I think about this as we see all of these systems collapse, you are going to see the new starting to form. So anyone who's in healthcare that was fired, you know what you're going to see emerge? You're going to see actual healthcare emerge. There's going to be actual life promoting facilities that open up, that you will have the opportunity to be first in the door. There's going to be a situation that occurs now as we move forward where anyone who has rooted themselves in this world that is disempowering people, they are going to be desperately seeking to join what we are creating right now. But it's going to lengthen the time frame for them if they don't start speaking up right now, because silence is growing roots, and certainly tearing down other people is growing roots for people in that world. They're going to keep experiencing more of what they're giving out. If you're remaining silent, you're going to continue to be silenced in a more aggressive way. If you've been tearing down other people, asking for the censorship of other people, or attaching yourself to these divisive tactics, you're going to continue to experience that in your own life. In fact, you're going to see a lot of this infighting happening within these circles. I mean, even these gurus, they're going to start coming at each other soon. Because what's left? Because guess what? Like I said at the beginning, the voices they're trying to cancel are only going to get louder, but not in like their voice. It's going to get louder in like, wait for it. Joe Rogan will start popping out episodes every single day. It's just how we work. You know what I mean? Like a lot of you can relate to this. You're energized by it and they can't explain it. These efforts to tear down don't work. It just energizes. It's like a transfusion. Okay? It has the opposite effect. Hey, Lindsay. Many are in a collective temper tantrum energy as their narrative falls apart. Yep. Awakened midwives are beginning to gather resources for women here locally. Amazing, right? Yes, my daily prayer is holistic, honest, urgent care facilities. It's happening. It's already forming. The demand, it's going to be beautiful. The demand for people who have cared so much about this that they were willing to speak out and willing to lose their jobs, they'll be the first hired. You guys are so wonderful. I love all those, like the comments with each other, the support and the encouragement. Because the thing is, like, And I really wish comments saved on videos like this. There's so many times where I've been on someone's live and there's just so much great commentary there that what it does give you whenever you're joining something live, you feel what, for example, people have felt who have gone to rallies or have been part of this convoy. There's just such a connection of the human spirit that you realize, I'm not alone. There are many others who are feeling what I'm feeling, and it gives you this spark of boldness so that you can step forward and do the thing and say the thing that's on your heart. And something, when I first started speaking about things that were not popular, sometimes received well, usually not. And it was shocking to me how quick, and I'll just say, in my world, I work mostly with women. It was shocking to me, the last decade, I would say, was really defined by boss babe culture and women empowering women and women supporting women and this idea of that. And it was surprising to me how quickly women would jump on the bandwagon to cancel another woman. So there's a lot of work, a lot of healing that's going to take place. But one of the things that I make sure to remind friends of mine who we talk about this topic, and they're starting to emerge in their voice and in their stance, and they're getting knocked down for it. And I always remind them that you will be part of the transformation of that other individual. It's just going to take time. And that's something that I want you all to realize too. If you can practice, like something I've been doing lately is, you'll notice that I've only ever, I don't even want to say tried to tear down, but I've only ever made an example of a few people on our planet that I'd love to see just zip it. Bill Gates and Justin Trudeau. So what I wanted to share was Trudeau. Lately, I've been trying to practice looking at his face when he's doing these ridiculous update videos. And I'm trying to practice not reacting emotionally. Like just, okay, that kind of energy. I mean, oh man. But it's been a helpful exercise. I'd encourage you to try it. If you find that you're feeling very reactionary to people in general, just watch a character like Trudeau, who's a trained drama teacher, mind you, and just try to practice not reacting in these heavy emotions. Just notice. Just allow him to talk and do his drama teacher speak, and okay, onwards. And see it for what it is. And now, understand the playbook. Do you guys do that too? I make myself look at a picture of Jeff Bezos every time I buy something from Amazon. Same concept in reverse. Yeah, it's absolutely the same with our Premier Victoria here in Australia. I know. I cannot even look at his face anymore. The trauma of the past. Yeah. But just something to try. Try to transmute what's happening so that they don't have that grip on you, right? Yes, crabs in a bucket. Absolutely. I love that analogy. I should have shared it earlier here. I talked about that a few years ago when I was speaking at a leadership retreat with doTERRA. I don't know if any of you were there. I was talking about crabs in a bucket. It's such a strong visual. Let's end on that note. So crabs in a bucket, right? You got this big paint bucket and you throw a bunch of crabs in it and you don't put a lid on it. All the crabs in the bucket assume they can't get out of the bucket until they start to see little Ralph the crab starting to crawl up the side of the bucket. What do the crabs do? What do? They start to grab at that crab, right? They got to pull that crab back down to the bottom. First, they're wondering, what is he doing? And then if Ralph gets so high up the bucket that he actually looks like he's about to escape the bucket, those crabs start freaking out. They start tagging a friend, like the mobs on Instagram, right? They tag a friend. We got to go comment. We got to go destroy that voice. We got to pull them back in. We got to tear them down, right? We can't let that bucket or that crab get out of the bucket. That's what's happening right now in real time. So just remember that. Be like Ralph. be the one that gets out of the bucket and then help others get out of the bucket. All right, you guys, I'll save this to the grid. Thanks for being on with me.